Alright, and we're live. Oh, no, not. No, plant potting still. No, there's not a chance of staying up. We're going to find a new plant pot. Thank you so much for your plant pot spam. Big hell. We haven't met Pam yet. She's at work at the moment, or just finished work. And we're in Morgantown, West Virginia. Come on. Got such a buzz coming over the High River today. We finally had a right to play Take Me Home Country Roads, which we've been holding out on for so long. And gosh, we had I don't know if you can tell, we've been sitting around for half an hour just like chilling and probably still sweating buckets because we came up the final hill and it looked like a little blip on the map. And it was a lot more than that. It was a savage incline. Absolutely took it out of us after a really long day. But we'll take you back to where we left you, which was at Sharon's place, just before we went out to pizza. Got some subs. Yep. Delicious. Got fairly good night's sleep. Unfortunately, the Wi-Fi cut out at night, so the latest one's probably coming a bit late. But hopefully we'll get that uploaded here. And so we got to bed about 10:30. Woke up about 6:30. Wasn't much going on for the first. They're a bit slow getting up, so we ended up kind of having breakfast about 7:30, and then getting out the door for about
8:30, 8:45.
Yeah, so a little later than we would have liked, especially because we had a huge amount of elevation today, properly in the Appalachian Mountains even today. And yeah, we ended out the door, and Sharon said, bless, she's like, they're a bit of an older couple, and the types that give you directions to their house, and they said, yeah, so turn left back the way you came out of the door, and we immediately out the door went right to follow Google Maps, which said there was slightly less elevation on that route. And I went along, first 20 miles pretty smooth, very gentle ups and downs. It was pretty chilled, kind of along the bottom of just pretty fairly rolling hills, until we stopped and to make sure we were taking this left turning.
Hoping we weren't.
Yeah. And because we saw a big hill ahead of us, it was about a couple hundred meters up, it looked like. And really steep, and we're like, oh gosh, we've got to just make this. So we set off up this hill. This was about 20 miles in, so we were already full into it, and and we got up and rounded the corner after completely out of breath, having done this 200-meter climb, to be faced with yet the same again. This was all like 10% gradient, really, like it was a struggle. At least, oh definitely. It was like gravity, I was on the lowest gear, and I don't know how I didn't kind of fall just straight backwards because it was so steep, and it was really hard just to replace the air in your lungs, let alone like the burning in your legs. It was, it's so hard to describe. You kind of breathing as fast as you can, but as deep as you can, and sweating. It was so humid, so all the sweat just stayed on us, didn't evaporate at all. Got to the top of this next section, only to find that it bent yet again. So we climbed for about a mile before stopping and it was still climbing, but it leveled out just enough that we could put our foot down. And we looked at each other and we were like, yeah, should we just have a drink of water for a couple of minutes? And that was rough. That was a really horrible start to the day, especially because Google said it was 600 feet up and 1,000 down for the entirety of this morning.
Google worked out chat shit the whole time.
It's so bad. It's just not correct.
It said we were meant to do 3,000 elevations today. Yeah. And we ended up doing
close to 6,000.
Yeah, 5,800.
Which are ridiculous. So we got to the top of this hill, and this slowed us down for the entire day, not just because we were tired out, but also because we were so going along the flatter sections, we were so wary of just a hill coming out of nowhere, because we were, as we said, bang in the middle of these mountains and tackling them the completely wrong direction, so going head into them instead of kind of taking a route which would be slightly flatter, so ride the ridge. So we were kind of going over the ridge instead of riding them. Because we should have gone up to Pittsburgh and down to Cumberland instead of going to Morgantown, which is in the heart of the mountains. And yeah, but we got to lunch. It wasn't so bad after that. It's still a lot of ups and downs, but manageable. And we made it to the Ohio River, which was pretty cool, pretty impressive bridge. And we were buzzing over that, just about managed to grab the photo. And West Virginia, we were there, and we stopped off at a gas station, got a drink, filled up our water bottles, and we were at a bit of a loss because there was such a long stint until the next town, until Blacksville, about 45 miles. So we thought we'd just eat lunch as and when we could, and then push on, like fill up water bottles, possibly at Blacksville or whatever we could. And so we continued along this route in West Virginia, and up again through the mountains, because we come right the way down to the Ohio River only to climb back out. That was the really frustrating thing, is that today was only 100 miles only, but it was so, like, the elevation just makes it that much tougher. So yeah, we braked at about 11ish, left at about 11:15, and carried on. We then did about 40 miles in a go, just under, possibly more like 36, because we had about 66 to go. And we crossed into Pennsylvania. I did miss the sign, because I was kind of going along, there was a truck passing, and then James said, "Oh, it's Pennsylvania." I looked back, I was like, what, because I didn't hear him, and then by the time I figured out what he was saying, I was past the sign. And anyway, went back just like, because I thought he was making it up, and he wasn't. There was a sign there. So we're in Pennsylvania, which is pretty cool.
The dog on the wall before this or after?
I can't remember. All blurred into one. Yeah, but do say, because this is a really.
Yeah. So we were coming down. I think the worst thing about the roads was that you know, they were so uneven you couldn't go fast.
Yeah.
And then we went one past and all the trucks were coming by, because it's diverted route. Huge trucks carrying loads of coal.
Like, they took up the whole road, let alone width. Yeah.
And most of them were alright, but there's one arse was on our arse, honking his horn the whole time. And Sam, being in his own world, was just looking ahead. And what he hadn't seen is there's this huge wall running on the side of the road.
Why would I be looking up there?
It's peripherals, and basically there's an enormous dog, more of a bear than a dog. Don't know what breed, some crossbreed probably. But I mean, absolutely massive, the small, you know, dwarf pony kind of size, running along, baring its teeth, barking. And Sam went past the end of the wall as it ran up, and the truck was behind us. And I was sure this dog was about to leap off onto me, so I just absolutely. It was terrifying. I basically then swerved into the road, which just pissed off the driver even more.
So he was on his
Fortunately, the dog didn't jump off. I managed to swerve back in, and then we just went back uphill again.
And I was oblivious.
We got so many dogs today.
Yeah.
Probably 15, 20.
Easily.
And chased by probably 5 or 6.
Half of them, yeah.
This is not fun.
Yeah. And because I looked back and I saw James swerve out, and because the driver had been on his horn, I thought he was just doing it for laughs to piss off this truck driver.
And then there was the other time
to avoid the dog.
where we were going along and there was a little dog barking, and so I like barked back, oh, ruff, 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 and then suddenly this massive like Alsatian comes out of nowhere and starts on, oh gosh, so he sprinted off and they chased us.
That was brilliant, because I heard that and I laughed, and then his big older brother came along. It was so bad. And then there was, oh my gosh, and then there was one. We saw 5 dogs at once, and they're all in a cage about
Rottweilers.
All like about a 5 feet by 5 feet cage, and they jumped, and their paws were at the very top of this cage, and that was terrifying, because it didn't look that sturdy, and if they went through that, we would have been goners. And there was another time when Caesar came after us. It was this big, like, kind of boxer
He was
type
a Rottweiler as well, wasn't he?
I don't know the name of that breed.
Yeah.
But and so at that point we just stopped. There's a huge hill ahead of us, so we weren't outrunning it. But luckily its owner was there, so it kind of got it under control. But in
Caesar, what an apt name. Ugly dog.
In these mountains, like the dogs are so much less well trained, because they don't have to be. They can roam wherever they want. The roads are narrow. If they see a big lorry, they're obviously not going to cross that, and no other vehicles really come by. So they see a bike and they're after it. And we saw some deer, some beavers.
Stag, big stag.
Yeah, and it was again completely lost on me, this stag, but there you go. And all lovely, like there were some gorgeous bits down by the creek. There's some bits where the road completely fell away though, and there were big like poles up, kind of warning you, and that was scary. That was like, oh, what if the ground gives way for us? Yeah, and then we stopped in Pennsylvania for lunch, and up atop this big ridge, so we just done another huge climb, Not quite as long, but definitely as steep into lunch, and just sat by these houses on the top of this ridge. Lovely, lovely view. That was the one thing about climbing, is it does give you some pretty good views. James went and filled up his water bottle at a local house, got caught up in conversation with the resident there, and yeah, it was pretty chill. I had to charge up the phone because the navigation was a bit of a shocker today because there's so many winding roads, so had to have the phone on the whole time, which meant that it drained the battery. So we stayed there probably longer than we would usually, but it was probably a bit of a welcome relief because of how much climbing we'd done. And so I had 30 miles to go, set off, and we set off, and we came with, basically, because we did a small section of West Virginia, we did a high West Virginia for a little bit, into Pennsylvania, and then cutting back down to West Virginia. And James said, "Oh, we're in West Virginia." And I was like, "You've got to be kidding me," because I thought I'd missed another sign. And I was like, "I've actually been looking this time." And he was like, "Oh, no, it just popped off on my phone." I was like, "Okay, thank God." But that was fine. That made me laugh. And we carried on. It was pretty up and down. Oh, and we stopped for about a total of half an hour for these stupid stop signs because they're doing some road works.
It's obviously cheaper to employ 2 people to stand all day with a stop and go sign than it is to put up a set of traffic lights.
Which is so annoying. And one stop sign, one of these lengths where there was stop sign and a stop sign was about probably 3 miles. So we were stuck there for at least 20 minutes waiting for, because we just got there as he flipped it to stop. Then we had to wait for all of those cars to go the whole way down and for it to be all clear and then to do a bit of construction, and then the whole of the rest of the next cars come down and do a bit of construction, and then we were on our way. So that was a pain. That really slowed us down. And on such a long day, we just wanted to get it over and done with, this last stretch. But we carried on, and then we were up this final hill, this final spike of the day. Huge climb again, about a mile long, not quite as steep as the one we had at the very start of the day, but it was kind of, they have these horrible roads, which is so, like, I mean, the roads were awful anyway because they're mountain roads full of potholes and all the rest of it, which is why we couldn't enjoy the downhills, because we had to be so careful, because if you hit a pothole, if you hit like the train track we were talking about, that's one thing, you get a bit grazed, but if you hit those potholes coming down at 30 miles per hour, you're like, your bones broken.
You're dead, man.
Yeah, it's a bad story. So but anyway, we're coming up this hill, really hot, like, I don't know how to describe it, it's almost like cobblestones. Anyway, we're going to wrap up. And we came down the other side, it was really smooth, really fast, and came in for about 5:10, which was really good. So we did the whole day in like under 8.5 hours, which is absolutely crazy quick. So the time we were actually moving was 14 miles an hour average. And then with all the breaks and stuff, if those had been shorter of the ones we'd taken before, and without all those rubbish stop signs, we probably would have been here in under 8 hours for a 100-mile day with that much elevation. Was really good going. So really tough day, and we've got even more elevation tomorrow with the same distance. So dreading that. But once we're out of that, it is completely, like absolutely completely flat into DC. So we're really looking forward to that. And we'll pick you up tomorrow when we're out of the Appalachian Mountains.
Thank God. 2 days to go after that.
Yeah.